Hope you guys are doing well. It's been a wonderful and very hot Tuesday down in the capital Kampala, but it is that long-awaited night for most Arsenal fans, for most football enthusiasts, for the first leg of the semi-finals of the UEFA Champions League between Arsenal and PSG. So that's what we're going to be looking at in just a bit. But allow me to do the norms of testing our, audios before we get it all started. And that's in a bit. So kindly indulge me as I get to test out our, audio so that we're not caught off guard or off track in as far as our audio is concerned. And I think, yes, I think we're good to go. We are good to go. So as I wait for you guys to join the broadcast, kindly join the broadcast. Let's discuss this fixture as it gets underway. Teams are already out warming up. It's plenty of action to come our way, and we would love it. So the starting lineups are out. Managers, players are doing their, those are pretty much press interactions that they get if to do and that kind of thing. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. But just to let you know, the other second semi-final between Barcelona and Inter Milan that will come to us tomorrow. So again, we'll get the chance to discuss that and much more. I know we did not get the time to do a bigger preview or a pre-recorded preview for that game between Barcelona and Inter Milan. So I think we'll have time and do it in a live broadcast tomorrow. So, but for now, our focus is going to be at the Emirates Stadium, where Arsenal welcome PSG in the first leg of the semi-finals of the UEFA Champions League. These two sides have met previously, but it's not been at the knockout stages. They did meet in 2016-2017 UEFA Champions League season. That was in the group stages, in Group A. Then they did meet in the league format, or at the league phase of this season is UEFA Champions League, which Arsenal went on to win by 2-0. But the two meetings that the two sides did have back in 2016-2017 season ended in draws, 2-2 at the Emirates, and then a 1-1 draw away from that's away in France. That is at Parc de France. So there are two sides that do well know each other, but there's a lot of difference between the team that are met back in 2016-2017 to the team that is meeting right now. So welcome guys to the broadcast. If you're new here, kindly like the broadcast, kindly give me your comments, kindly subscribe if you're new. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspects. So the starting lineups are not so much different from what we had predicted in as far as both sides are concerned. When it comes to Arsenal, pretty much everything is as we had predicted it that it will be. For those of you that do remember, we spoke about that midfield trio that Mikel Arteta fielded in their 4-0 victory over Ipswich Town. It's the midfield that has gotten to start tonight's game. And so even without looking at the lineup, I can't even tell you what it is. So it's David Villa in goal, William Saliba and Jakub Kiwior in that centre back. Miles Lewis Kelly starts at left back, as well as Julian Timber at right back. Pretty much expected standard over two legs versus Real Madrid. That's the side that started. In midfield, due to the suspension of Thomas Partey, you do have Declan Rice starting at the base of the midfield or at the pivot. That's at the number 6 role. Of course, it will change the dynamic in which Arsenal then apply themselves, because they've been so used to Declan Rice playing as an 8 with his driving force, playing that box-to-box role, which he does so effortlessly well. You won't miss to see a moment of him running in the 80th minute doing a sprint. He's that energetic of a player. So it's Declan Rice at the base of midfield. It's Mikel Merino at left edge alongside Martin Odegaard. Can they cope with the midfield three of Vitinha, João Neves, as well as Fabian Ruiz? Because that's the competition they are up against. Now, for those of you that do remember, it's slightly different from the one that started in the first meeting back on 1st October when these two sides met at the Emirates Stadium, a game that Arsenal were able to win. So in the front three, it's Leandro Trossard leading the lines alongside Bukayo Saka and Gabriel Martinelli. Pretty much that's what we expected. On Arsenal's bench is Neto, Setford, Kieran Tierney, Ben White, Zichenko, Sterling, Butler, Oyedeji, Henry Francis, Kabia, and Ethan Nwaneri. Now, for me personally, I do get the feeling that this is a lightweight bench for Arsenal. There are not so many players that you can look on to change your fortunes in the game if things are not going according to plan. For example, you're missing Thomas Partey, of course, we all know through suspension, but you're missing the experience of Jorginho. He's equally out injured following that chest injury that he suffered in the game versus Brentford. That ended in a 1-1 draw for the Gunners. So you really do not have so many options for Arsenal on the bench as far as changing the game is concerned. So you're left with Ethan Nwaneri and maybe Alexander Zichenko in that as far as midfield and attacking options are concerned. Sterling, I mean, for me, Sterling has really fallen short of his own standards for any game he's been fielded to feature for Arsenal this season. But that Carabao Cup game versus Bolton Wanderers, where he really did shine a bit. And then, of course, the other figure is maybe Ben White and Kieran Tierney, if you want to switch things up at the back and that kind of thing. But it is a very, very lightweight bench for Arsenal by the standards at which they are playing at. Remember, the stakes couldn't be any higher at this stage of the competition. The semi-finals of the UEFA Champions League. They are third in the club's history, the first coming in 2006, and that is 2005-2006 season, and then back again in 2008-2009 season. And we all remember on the first occasion back in 2006, they managed to advance to the finals after knocking out Villarreal in the semi-finals. But in 2008-2009 season, they fell short because they were knocked out by Manchester United, who went on to be the eventual champions when they met with Chelsea in Moscow, there in Russia for the finals. So, anyways, I start to be correct. But for 2008-2000 season, when Manchester United proceeded to the final, they met Barcelona and lost by 2-0. For those of you that do remember, Lionel Messi scoring a header, beating Rio Ferdinand to a cross to head that ball home, and yet everybody thought Messi was the shortest player on the pitch. So the 2008 final was different. That was a year earlier, but in 2009, Manchester United met Barcelona at the finals and they lost by 2-0. Anyway, on the side of PSG, as far as the starting 11 is concerned, again, for those of you that were with us in the morning for the early morning broadcast, that was at around 10 a.m. or 10:30 thereabout. Pretty much what we did predict is what we are seeing. And this is from a PSG report. That's the lineup I'm reading for you. And it's Gianluigi Donnarumma in goal, William Pacho, Marquinhos in that centre-back role, Nuno Mendes at left-back, and Achraf Hakimi at right-back. Vitinha, Fabian Ruiz, and João Neves in the midfield three. And then Kivicha Kvaratskhelia alongside Ousmane Dembele leading the lines, and Desire Doué there for Paris Saint-Germain. So quite interesting stuff there. So everything is as we predicted it to be. There've not been surprise switches. Now, because Arsenal are really very short on the bench, when I look at their options, excuse me, should they want to switch things up in the midfield across during the course of the game, you get the feeling that their options are quite limited. Then it would mean that maybe they switch things up at left back, and then Miles Lewis-Kelly comes in midfield, and then maybe Zichenko comes at left back, or Kieran Tierney, and anything to do with that in the mix. And maybe in some of the news that we are receiving, and this is from now.arsenal on X, they say Arsene Wenger is at the Emirates Stadium tonight to watch the Champions League semi-final. And they go on to quote that apparently Mikel Arteta had this to say about that particular fact, is that I'm only here because of him. That's Arsene Wenger, so hopefully I can give him something back tonight. Sorry about that. On the PSG bench, they do have Safonov. They do have Presido Kimpembe, Goncalo Ramos, Lee Kang-in, Lucas Hernandez, Bakola, Beraldo, Mbaye, Mayuru, among some of those players. So when you look at that PSG bench, it's really, really much stronger as compared to that Arsenal bench that we just looked at. When you look at players like Lucas Hernandez, Lee Kang-in was one of those players that started when Arsenal met up against PSG back on 1st November or on 1st October. He was one of those players. You do have players like Bradley Bakola, a very, very good player, has had a very wonderful season. So he would be one of those that PSG look to if they want to switch things up. And then, of course, Goncalo Ramos, also a very good young player. And like it's been said time and again, this is a much different, PSG side compared to what Arsenal met on 1st October. For those of you that do remember, Ousmane Dembele was not available for that particular fixture, so he comes as a new challenge for that Arsenal backline. And when we are talking about the kind of different battles that are going to be in this particular fixture, Ousmane Dembele versus Arsenal's centre-back pairing was one of those that we did highlight back on earlier in the day. And then we highlighted that of Nuno Mendes versus Bukayo Saka, as well as Ivica Kvaratskhelia versus Yurian Timber on the other side. Then we did have one Gabriel Martinelli versus Achraf Hakimi, as well as that of Miles Lewis-Kelly versus Desire Doe. And when they switch things up, it could be Bradley Bakola that he faces. So it's going to be really, really a long night for the Arsenal backline, and the reverse could be true. Luis Enrique said that they did everything within their power, within their knowledge and expertise to prepare for this particular game. They prepared for everything except maybe set pieces. That's where they have a bit of a weakness. Could Arsenal look to capitalize on those? With the absence of Gabriel Magalhaes, you get the feeling that it sort of makes Arsenal lesser of a threat during set pieces than they would have been with Gabriel Magalhaes. Nonetheless, I think Mikel Merino is one of those players that have risen to the occasion when it comes to set piece plays. For those of you that do remember when Arsenal were beating up against Chelsea by a goal to nil, it was Mikel Merino's header that won Arsenal that particular game, and it wasn't his first header that he was scoring, so he does rise to the occasion. And then in that 2-2 draw between Crystal Palace and Arsenal, you do remember in the 3rd minute it was Jakub Kivio's header of a Martin Odegaard free kick that gave Arsenal the lead. So they do retain their set piece threat overall. When you have the brilliant delivery possibility of Declan Rice and Bukayo Saka on the pitch, you really give yourself a chance to try and capitalize on that. We all know that Gianluigi Donnarumma is not very good at coming out for set pieces and collecting that ball, especially in flight and that kind of thing. But maybe he's done more homework than he had done the previous time. You remember one of the goals he conceded in that game was a header from Kai Havertz. There was a lapse in judgment from Gianluigi Donnarumma with the pace at which he came for that ball, and then Kai Havertz beat him to it, and he ended up scoring. Then for the second goal, it was a direct free kick from Bukayo Saka. The kind of movement that players, I think, like Thomas Partey and Gabriel Martinelli made when that ball is brought into the box, really caught Gianluigi Donnarumma off guard. Nobody touched the ball eventually, but it ended up in the back of the net. So that's the case. As far as that Arsenal backline is concerned, they're really going to have to do a lot of work to contend with that front three of PSG, of Ousmane Dembele, Ivica Kvaratskhelia, and Desire Doué, because they're a very, very potent side. So maybe the other thing I want us to look at a couple of key facts as words of encouragement or otherwise, depending on what side of the aisle that you do follow on. For example, this is from Opta Joe. It's a statistic that they are giving us. They say Arsenal are the top-ranked team in the UEFA Champions League this season for expected goals conceded per game is at 0.89, and that's the lowest. Then shots on target first per game is 2.7, as well as big chances conceded per game is one chance. So they're telling you about the defensive prowess of Arsenal, and if Arsenal are to make it through to the finals of the season is UEFA Champions League, then their defensive solidity must really stand out over the 180 minutes of this particular fixture versus PSG, pretty much the way they did it versus Real Madrid. But we all know that PSG stands to be a different test for this Arsenal side. Whether they will be able to overcome it, we are waiting to see. Do let me know what your predictions are down in the comment section, and we hear what you guys have to say about this. Apologies for that. Apologies for that. Yes, we're still trying to point out a few facts from the different sources as they come in respect to this particular fixture. This one goes on to say, this is Squawka. Squawka says Miles Lewis Kelly is the youngest Englishman and youngest Premier League player to appear in the Champions League semi-finals. That's aged 18 years and 215 days. So looks like the youngster is a little over 100 days to his 19th birthday. Then what do we have here? What do we have here? Anyways, let's keep looking. We are trying to read through the chatter that is coming through about this Arsenal side versus PSG. What fans are saying online, what different footballing blogs are saying online, and we do have here Bakola. Bakola is one of those trending. He's one of those deadly players that PSG have. Okay, so PSG have 4 players averaging 2+ completed dribbles per 90 minutes in the UEFA Champions League. In the UEFA Champions League this season, the most on a single team, 300+ minutes played. Desire Due 3.1, Kivicha Kvaratskhelia 2.7, Bradley Bakola 2.6, and Ousmane Dembele at 2.2. So that's why I keep saying that attacking threat is going to be huge for Arsenal. Whether they can withstand it, that remains to be seen. And then there was a video of Mikel Arteta making a rally call to the Arsenal fans once again to bring their shirts, their boots, to play with them, for the fans to play with the players every minute, every tackle, every decision, and everything that they will do in today's game. So I know the nerves have started setting in for the Arsenal fans, for the rival fans, for PSG fans, and for the people that do enjoy football in general. But for as long as tonight there is a side you wish well for, then clearly I understand when you say, I understand that the nerves have started kicking in. You're wondering whether the side you're rooting for can really go ahead to make it. But fingers crossed, fingers crossed. Again, then the others are trending is Miles Lewis Kelly still, given his age and being that he's appearing at this stage or this scene is quite important. And this is what Mikel Arteta says. This is what Mikel Arteta had to say about. It's what Miles Lewis Kelly had to say about his manager, Mikel Arteta. He said his attention to detail is incredible. I love to learn, so learning from him and the way he handles and approaches the games, it's fascinating. There is so much I can take from Mikel Arteta. He's a genius, really. That's what Miles Lewis Kelly had to say recently in his interview about the gaffer there in Mikel Arteta. And then we do know he's one of those players that is not afraid for confrontation. We do remember him having sort of a snag with Braut Erling Haaland in that game at the Etihad Stadium that ended in a 2-2 draw earlier on in the season. So those are some of the things that you do expect. Guys, give me your predictions. Let me know what your predictions are for this particular game. I did give you mine earlier on. I don't know if some of you still remember it, but my prediction was a 3-1 victory for Arsenal, although I continuously question my judgment on that, wondering where the goals will come from this Arsenal side. I do not know, as if they've not done it before. But, well, I will wait to see, but I get the feeling that PSG might score, but overall Arsenal may grind it out and win it by 3 goals to 1. Most of the predictions that I've been following during the course of the day, many predictors were giving Arsenal the edge to win it by 2 goals to 1, while others have given it to PSG to win it by a similar scoreline. So yeah, it's that kind of game. That's how balanced the sides are. Technically, I get the feeling that PSG players are better than those of Arsenal. When you look at that starting 11, technically they're better. But again, like we've said before, it's for me physically, Arsenal may be able to grind it out and get the better of them. For those of you that do remember, Arsenal's dominancy in that first game that they won by 2 goals to 0 was really largely winning the game physically. So, anyways, I can see all the sorts of memes, making the runs on X. I mean, it's the banter that is really going on is incredible. The banter that is going on is really incredible. You'd love to see it. I know most of you are following it online. You're participating in those engagements. I was just checking to see if there's something that stands out that we ought to make ourselves aware of. But so far, so good. Not much is filtering through. I guess some people are caught in the nervousness of the moment. They are wondering whether they should speak now or they should wait. So there's a bit of that. When it comes to, let's see, under sports, what's happening. Arsene Wenger, so many tweets about Arsene Wenger, or how do you call him now? Anyways, by the way, Arsene Wenger was one of those voices that was interviewed, I think, by Sky Sports prior to this particular fixture, and he did say that he does give Arsenal a chance to win this particular tie. He says, but PSG are a very good team, and he does acknowledge that oftentimes the teams that get to the semi-finals of the UEFA Champions League are all equally very good, and any of them can go ahead to win it. So that's what pretty much he had to say. But of course, I know he's here to root for his former team, where he spent so much time. That is between 1996 October until May 2018, when he hung up the boots and left the club and was replaced by Unai Emery. Unai Emery having left PSG to join Arsenal, and that double header that we spoke about at the group stages of the 2016-2017 campaign. For those of you that do not remember, it was Unai Emery in the dugout for PSG when they had players like Edson Cavani, Angel Di Maria, Blaise Matuidi, Thiago Silva, Marquinhos was in that side. They did have players like Sergio Aurelia, the Ivorian Coast international, and they had Marco Verratti in there. So that was the kind of team that PSG did have. A very strong side, but Arsenal did not allow to get beat. Even when I thought that still Arsenal at the time were the lesser opponent in terms of squad, because when you look at the Arsenal squad that they had at the time, it had the likes of Aaron Ramsey, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, of course, Mesut Ozil, it had Olivier Giroud, it had Alexis Sanchez, it had Laurent Koscielny, it had David Ospina, it had players like Hector Bellerin, who missed the first leg, Nacho Monreal, and that kind of squad. I think it also had the likes of Calum Chambers. So really, that was the formation or the composition of the Arsenal squad at the time. So so you sort of remember back at that time. Even at that time, I do remember thinking PSG as a better side. They were much stronger, but bearing in mind that they were dominating the French League One, and among other factors, because Arsenal did not have a striker in the caliber of Edson Cavani, one of the midfielders Arsenal had at the time was Francis Coquelin. Now, Francis Coquelin versus Marco Verratti, we all know who was the better player. When you had a winger like Angel Di Maria, really Blaise Matuidi in that, box-to-box role. Remember, he had joined them from Juventus and that kind of thing. So they really, really had a very, very strong side. We're just about 20 minutes or thereabout away from kickoff. So get yourselves ready to enjoy tonight's action. I can see we are 25 minutes into the broadcast. We should be looking to close it down and maybe get to engage either at halftime or at full time, but most probably at full time. But if we do get a moment to speak about the developments of the first half, just be with us. We'll find a moment to speak about that as well. I hope my microphone is still on. Yes, should be. But anyway, Arsene Wenger is one of those that are being, talked about in plenty in regards to today's fixtures. Let's look at one or two more thoughts. Of course, Ronaldinho, a former PSG player, is also rooting for his side. That's Ronaldinho Gaucho de Assis Moreira, arguably the best player that I've ever watched. For me, he's the greatest of all time. That's Ronaldinho Gaucho de Assis Moreira. I can see here a clip on Bein Sports of Arsene Wenger in attendance tonight as he walks into the Emirates Stadium, a stadium he helped build, and they moved into it in 2006. After the 2005-2006 season, they moved from Highbury and went to the Emirates Stadium, and I think that's where they played a testimonial match for Dennis Bergkamp to bid him farewell. So yeah, he's very monumental in Arsenal's history as far as the stadium is concerned, as far as the club's successes over the last 4 decades is concerned, or thereabout, depending on how you may want to slice it. So he's really, really crucial. I can see players doing their warm-ups, footage of fans entering the stadium, they're continuing to enter, and all that kind of thing. But earlier on, I was seeing video clips of PSG fans outside, with their drums and singing. It's going to be an electric environment inside the Emirates Stadium. So anyway, guys, allow me wrap it here and wish you a wonderful night. Please enjoy the game. Do not let emotions get the better of you. I know football is an emotional thing. The passion with which we ought to show. Actually, when you go on the PSG X handle, there was a video posted about 19 minutes ago of their fans in the stadium already, chanting and singing. From this clip, they appear to be really, really in big numbers. They are chanting. Of course, among those are some rival fans that were able to get tickets for this Arsenal game. The rival fans are from England. Could be a Chelsea fan. I've seen Chelsea fans like Roy Jennings saying they would dread the fact that Arsenal would win this tie and then march on to the final. But it is what it is. It is what it is. I can see somebody asking, sorry, this is my private mess. Guys, are we confident about the lineup Partizan Arsenal fan? Allow me to wrap it here. Wish you a beautiful game, and we'll catch up maybe at halftime or at full time, but we'll see what time allows us to do. Enjoy the UEFA Champions League night. Bye-bye.